Today I'm taking a look at the first expansion for Core of Discovery, that is Insecta. This one is all about dealing with giant insects, and it doesn't even come in a box. All of these expansions kind of just come in a little envelope type thing. So this is the first one for Core of Discovery. I would like to thank Off the Page Games for sending this as a review copy. I have a review of the full base game on my channel already, so I'm just going to be talking about the expansion in this video. But let's go ahead and take a look at what this expansion adds, and then I'll come back and share with you some of my thoughts. Okay, so I have everything here for Core of Discovery Insecta set up. I don't have anything from the base game. I just wanted to show you what comes in the expansion. I have another video that goes over the base game, a little bit of an overview of how you play and all of that stuff in that other video. So I'm just going to cover what's in the expansion in this one. The first thing that you get are 10 more maps, which come in this very cool folder right here. So you get 10 more maps to play on for Core of Discovery. This artwork is really just incredible here on this covering here, and then on the back here you can write down which map you played, and how you did basically throughout the course of these 10 maps. So that's the one thing that you get. Obviously that's a major part of this expansion. Also, you're going to get 2 new characters as well that you can play as, and they have different abilities that you can use basically when you are exploring or to look at some things on unexplored paths. So 2 new characters really add some variability to the gameplay there. You're also going to get some new challenges as well, all insect related because you're dealing with insects in this particular expansion. So you've got these different insect challenges that you're going to have to try and overcome throughout the course of the game. You've got some new destiny cards as well that have to do with this expansion, certain things that can be helpful. You've got a few new gear cards as well, small sack of beads and also spear, which I found are very helpful when playing this expansion. I use these a decent amount. They're very helpful with this particular expansion if you're playing one of these maps and going up against these monsters. And then of course you've got the monster cards, and you've got some new insect monster cards. How the insects work is you can see here on every card it's the same. If it's daytime, you're just going to place it on the closest unexplored path adjacent to the skull terrain that you've explored. And if it's nighttime, you're going to place it on the unexplored path adjacent to the westernmost explored path, not on the edge. And those change up, so you can see this one says easternmost, southernmost, and northernmost on those insect cards. So the insects might go different places on the particular map. Now, these are the insect monster tokens. When you place one out, it works just like in the base game. If you want to explore any one of these spaces surrounding the insect token, you do have to pay a resource or a water to be able to do that. Also, there is one other resource that you will be using in this particular expansion. That is the flower tokens here, which are always in the same row as a mud. And so when you are looking for a flower token, you'll know it'll be in the same row as a mud. And the flower tokens work just the same way in terms of spending them to complete challenges and things like that, but just a different resource that's in this particular expansion. And then also you may have noticed this boat over here. And this is a very crucial part of this expansion. If you look on the sheet here, the info sheet, you can see that you can shuttle a resource or water or distract Renata, I think is how you say that, or Ranada. I'm not 100% sure, I do apologize, but basically you have this big ugly looking monster thing that is going to be flipped on this side at the start of each day. And you can spend these tokens right here to try and guess which terrain you're going to explore and flip over next. If you correctly guess it, you flip this face down, and now you have calm waters. And so you can shuttle resources, which means you're going to put resources on your boat right here. Now, once you have one of all of these resources, you can flip this over, and now you've created insecticide. An insecticide is what destroys the insects. So if you look here on these monster cards again, how to remove, if you can move an insect to an explored path, once the insecticide is created, it is destroyed. Also, if you have insects on explored paths already, when you get the insecticide, then those insects are immediately destroyed as well. And basically you're trying to kill 4 insects, and that is your goal. Now you can see here the rules, the extra rules that I just went over are laid out right here on this sheet as well. And you cannot shuttle the resources unless this is flipped over. So if this is on this side, when you explore, you cannot say, I'm going to put a wood on my boat, because you have to get this flipped over first. Once it does, you're free to shuttle those resources on here. Once there's resources on here, you can't move them back to your backpack. You can't move them from your backpack to the boat. Basically, when you explore, you have to decide at that point if you want to, put that resource, shuttle that resource onto your boat here when you are playing. So that's a little bit of an overview of what's included in the Insecta expansion. So now I'll go back and share with you some of my thoughts on this expansion. So you've seen what this expansion adds to Core of Discovery. Now I'll share with you some of my thoughts on this expansion. I think overall, just in general terms, if you like Core of Discovery, you're going to like this expansion. If you didn't enjoy the base game, then I don't think this expansion is going to add anything that is going to make you change your mind. This is basically just a more stuff expansion for Core of Discovery. And you do get a lot in this little package. You've got 10 new maps that you get to play on. You've got those 2 new characters, new challenges, new gear, destiny cards. All of that is included in this expansion. So in terms of adding some replayability to the game, that is very high with this expansion for Core of Discovery. Obviously, the most unique thing here is the addition of the boat and the Ranaday, which is a big group of frogs. And so that was really unique to me. I thought that added some really interesting gameplay decisions while going through and playing with this expansion, because you have to shuttle those resources to your ship to create that insecticide, and then once you do, you're able to destroy the insects. But if you don't do that, you'll never be able to destroy the insects. So it's definitely a thing that you have to work on throughout the course of the game. I really liked it as an addition to kind of the core gameplay of Core of Discovery. I thought it made for some interesting decisions, especially in a case where, am I going to, when I grab this resource, am I going to use it and put it in my backpack for a challenge, or am I going to put it on my boat and use it for insecticide and trying to do that? And then also having to flip over the Ranaday with, each round to be able to put more resource tokens on your boat. That requires some guesswork as well, because you have to either spend those tokens, which you have 3 of, and so once those are gone, you just have to spend regular resources. And if you don't predict the next space right, then you're going to just have to do that all over again. So when you are going to flip that tile over to the other side to kind of, quiet it for that day, you have to be really confident about what is on that next space. And sometimes that's really easy to predict, and sometimes it's really hard. One of the cool things about Core Discovery is you will use all your logic and deduction skills that you have, and then you'll go flip a space over, and it was something else that you didn't even think of, or you didn't even consider could possibly be there, when you go through all of the rules, but it still works and it still fits. So it really creates some interesting decisions, and the resource management is even more important with this expansion than I think it is with the base game. I would say in terms of difficulty, this is kind of between the two that come with the base game. You get flora and you get fauna. Flora is kind of, really difficult to try and achieve. Fauna is a little bit easier to try and get a win against the game. I would put this kind of in the middle, because this does add the resource management aspect to it. The insects, while not hard to kill, while not difficult to kill when they do pop up on the board, you're going to have to create that insecticide, and so before you do that, there is no chance to kill them. Also, when you do create that insecticide, those insects need to be in open spaces, so you're going to either have to move them or make sure they're in explored spaces so that when you do create the insecticide, those insects die. I will also say the insect monster tokens here for this expansion, unlike the base game and some of those tokens where you can't explore on the spaces that are like right adjacent to that particular space, this one also adds the diagonals in. So basically all 8 spaces that are around the insect, you're going to have to pay a resource if you want to go on any of those spaces. So that makes things difficult as well. But then at times you're trying to explore and find those skull tokens because you need them for challenges. So it's a very fine balance in terms of how you're going to go through this adventure and how you're going to execute it and what you're going to do to try and achieve victory. I thought the characters were really good too. I thought the 2 new additional characters that come with this expansion really work well for this expansion in terms of their special abilities that they are able to add. So you can definitely play this expansion with other characters that are, in the base game or from other expansions. But I think they did a really good job of, the abilities that they've given these characters work really well for this particular expansion in terms of exploring and trying to explore spaces that may be further away than just one space adjacent to you, or in the case of the other character, being able to look at what is on a particular space, not explore it, but know what is there, so that when you get there in a future round, you kind of have an idea of what that space is and what might be around it. So overall, really solid expansion for Corp of Discovery. Like I said, I think if you enjoy the base game, you're going to enjoy this expansion. The rules edition is very light. In fact, the rule book for this expansion is only about 3 pages, so it's not a ton of additional rules overhead that you have to learn to be able to play with this expansion. And so overall, I'm going to give this expansion an 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed this expansion for Corp of Discovery. I really enjoyed the base game. I have a review of that on my channel. Right now, I think it would end up as one of my top 10 solo games of 2025 if things kind of stay the way they are. Obviously, we have a lot of releases still to come, but it's definitely up there and is a great solo experience, and this expansion just adds to that. So thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this one. I've got lots of other reviews and lists on my channel as well. Until next time, I'm Jared. You've been checking out Specifically Solo.